We are a power connector that is helping to support the efforts of the Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize. We haven't had a chance to get too close to each of you, but we are looking forward to learning more about your organizations over the next couple months and getting to know each of you a little bit more. After today's session, we also have some other work coming up that we're going to be communicating with you on. So I just wanted to help put a face to our email, but you'll be seeing some information coming across your email on pitch preparation. And so keep an eye out for that. And we're looking forward to connecting with you as you prepare your applications. But I'm really looking forward to introducing our speakers today. We are so excited and lucky to have BRINK Marketing with us today. Chris Bushman and Audrey Scheer, who are both here from BRINK, and they have a great presentation on developing a local strategy, outreach strategy, and just helping you work on telling your story. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris and Audrey and hope that you enjoy all that they have to offer today.
So a little bit about who I am. Well, in this context, most people might, tout their awards and accreditations. I always like starting with the thing that I'm most proud of. And that's definitely my family, my wife and I, Lacey. We've been married for 10 years. We've got these 3 beautiful kids, Elle, Josephine, and our newest addition, Callan, who will be 7 months tomorrow. So I was a proud girl dad for 7 years, and then, introduced to that boy dad life this past summer. I am based out of Florida. I recently relocated after baby number 3 back to my hometown in Central Florida, just north of Orlando. After he came, my wife and we were living in the city in Washington, D.C., and we realized, we were outnumbered now. We needed to be back near family. That's my family. And professionally, I'm a partner and strategy director at BRINK. So when I think about myself, it's, this is me in a nutshell. Partner and strategy director at BRINK. BRINK, what are we? We're a brand strategy and creative communications agency. As I mentioned, I relocated from Washington, D.C. We're based out of Washington, D.C. in Tucson, Arizona. We work with a select group, for-profit, nonprofit, community-based organizations, much like yourself, that put people on the planet first. Really, that's really our focus and the types of clients that we want to work with. We primarily design and develop evocative, emotionally driven, story-driven campaigns and experiences that are intended to capture, and inspire action. We want to pull people into what these organizations are doing, make them part of the mission, and inspire them to take some sort of action, whatever action the organization's trying to prompt. I'm going to show you our sizzle reel. I think that'll just give you a taste of some of the community outreach efforts that we do and the type of work that we're about. Let me play that.
As warmer temperatures become the norm in our society,
every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, because you guys paid for all of this.
So a little taste of, oh, we won't watch that again. So a little taste of what we're all about. Stories can't change the world, but they can change minds. Hopefully you caught that message there at the end. I just wanted to call that out because this is really the ethos that guides the work that we do here at BRINK, right? And when you think about, changing the world, like all of you are, we at BRINK want to do our part to make the world a little bit better, right? But changing the world starts with changing minds. Sometimes it's just one person's mind that you're trying to change. Sometimes it's an entire community. Sometimes, as with all of you, it's going to be a group of judges, when you're pitching for the prize. Stories change minds are what actually changes the world, right? Steve Jobs said it best, the most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda for an entire generation to come. And when you think about leaders, be it, presidents and politicians, organization leaders, company leaders, brands, whoever it may be, whoever you may love, they're all great storytellers, right? Storytelling is a true superpower. And that's what we want to talk to you guys about today. Hopefully help you find your storytelling superpower capability. So the agenda, right? So just 3 points. We got a little less than an hour. So I'm going to just run through, give you a simple and proven storytelling framework that we use with the clients that we work with that I think you can hopefully take from this and incorporate into your community outreach efforts. My understanding is that part of the competition criteria is that you have to prove that you built trust and strengthen relationships in the communities you're serving. And I know firsthand, doing this for 15 plus years, that there's really no better way to do that than through storytelling. I'm going to break down a real human interest story. So show you something, from a brand, a company you may be familiar with. And then we're going to break it down together and talk through what's the story that they're telling. And then hopefully get you thinking about your own organization story and way you can incorporate more human stories into your community outreach and engagement efforts. There should be plenty of time at the end. I wanted to leave enough room for discussion. I want you guys to bring, think about what you guys are doing, what you're planning to do. You've got myself and Audrey on the line, come with questions. We will try to come back with intelligent answers and, be responsive to that. I did see that, Amanda shared with me a list of all the teams and the amazing work that you guys are doing. And it definitely seemed there's going to be some stiff competition between all of you. So I wish you all the best of luck in your pursuit of the prize. I have the Post-its there. This was positioned as a workshop. I'd love for it to be a workshop. If we had more time, we could really make it a fun workshop. But with that, there are going to be moments in the presentation, especially as we're breaking down the human interest story, for example, where I'll ask for participation. So you can use Audrey's monitoring the chat. So you can, definitely drop your comments in the chat. But I also want to keep this a casual conversation. I don't want to be a one-way, like I'm talking to you. Definitely something's not clear. If you feel so compelled, jump in and, feel free to chime in. I would love, I noticed some of you have your cameras on. It would be just for me, I love to keep the conversation. If you could turn your camera on, if you were comfortable with that. No pressure either way. I totally am adjusted to this new Zoom reality that we're all living and working in. But yeah, if you could, that way I can just, read facial expressions, feel as if I am talking to you all and not talking at you all. All right, sound good? Can I get a thumbs up? All right, sounds good. All right, let's dig in. All right, so storytelling, definitely one of the, I'd say, buzziest buzzwords of the last 10 years when it comes to business and marketing. It's everybody talks about storytelling. Storytelling it's fundamental to, being a human. Stories are all around us day in and day out. You wake up, you open your phone, you scroll social media, it's filled with stories. You turn on the news, it's stories, good for better, for worse. Good stories make us feel, bad stories can make us feel a certain way. Good stories help us relate to the world around us. So show of hands, how many of you would consider yourself a good storyteller? No, I see some shaking. Yeah, all right, that's okay. Hopefully you'll be a better storyteller at the end of this, at least a little bit closer, right? when it comes to the work that we do, whether it's, you know, in the for-profit space, the nonprofit space, you know, there's a natural tendency to steer clear of storytelling. And we often revert to like showing the data. Here's what we've done, or here's what we're doing, or here's what the market opportunity presents. And it's data, 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 data. And while data is important, right? Data is part of it. You know, it's often not the things that sways our decisions. In fact, the data shows that, you know, 90% of our decisions every day are based on our emotions. And a good story is key to influencing people's emotions, right? So you can't necessarily tell someone what to think, right? But you can influence, you know, how they feel about it, right? And that's what the power of storytelling. So the reality is, you know, storytelling is going to be a crucial to the part of the work that you guys are doing. You know, when you're involved in convincing people, you know, selling something or just grabbing attention, storytelling is going to be key to that. So what do all good stories have in common? They all feature a relatable character overcoming some sort of obstacle to achieve a great outcome. So for this first, jumping right into it, for this first exercise, I'm going to share a story from a brand you might have heard of. Then after, we're going to break down the story down into the character, the obstacle, and the outcome. Sound good? All right, let's check this out.
This is you at the U.S. Open. This is you. Good service motion. Boom! Very good. Keep that perfect service motion you have. Right there. Good. Boom! Switch to the backhand. Lean into it. Woo. Just follow through. Take the net. Nice try. Make sure you're controlling that ball on every shot. There you go. Very good. Back, back, back. Put it away. Be tough, just like you want to win. Just like you at the U.S. Open. Right there. This is you. Very good, Serena Williams.
All right.
This is you at
So I want you to just give it, you know, reflect on what you just saw, regardless, you know, set aside if you have any personal feelings, you know, or dislikes about Nike as a company, you know, what did that, you know, spot make you feel? If you had to just package the feeling that you had at the end of that, you know, or throughout that, you know, what was that one word feeling that it evoked for you? Inspired, inspiration. Determination, yep. Is definitely, you know, not by coincidence, that's by design, right? Nike states its mission is to bring in innovation and inspiration, or inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And when they write it out, they do this smart thing with this little asterisk. If you have a body, you are an athlete, right? And when you think about how Nike positions themselves in the market and how they market themselves to consumers, you know, whether it's, you know, Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods or Serena Williams, right? They'd have these inspiring figures that the story behind them is they're overcoming some sort of obstacle to achieve some sort of level of greatness at the end. And it's through that story of inspiration and moments where we see ourselves in that character that we start to gravitate towards them and what the brand is all about, you know. And there's a reason, you know, that, and consistently doing that over and over and telling these stories and leading with the stories and the humans and the products they sell have this background. And sometimes there's no presence of the product at all in the spot, that you start to have this affinity and understanding for what this brand stands for and represents, right? And starts to own this unique space in consumers' minds, and consumers and people, you know, want to spend time and give some of their attention to that, right? And I think when you think about, we are very much living in an attention economy where everybody is competing for our attention, right? Everyone's got something to tell us or something to sell to us, right? And there's just a lot of noise out there, right? And So finding ways to cut through that noise and rise above the noise and sort of serve as the signal, right? That pulls your audience in. Obviously Nike's a master at that. What I want to do is just break down, by design, like sort of what they were doing there. We could use the chat. Audrey's monitoring the chat, but what are some words that we would use to describe the character? And then I'll do a reveal after. But who was that character? Yes, we know it was Serena Williams, but beyond that, what are some words that we would just use to describe who she is, what she was doing? And there's no right or wrong answers either.
I'll jump right in. It's successful. I mean, she overcame, and she her resilience, and she went to the pinnacle of her sport. And that's just to say that she was a ambition. And I mean, it's a lot of words. One word wouldn't even begin to describe the greatness that she overcame and become.
Right,
so
right.
I think becoming. How about that? That'll be.
Where was she though in the beginning of what was the environment and sort of the circumstances of her as a young child, growing up in the environment that she did? How would we describe her there? What's like sort of her origin story? Think about that. You're right though about the persistence and the becoming. Those are definitely the qualities and the attributes that got her to that outcome.
It seemed to me, actually, I'll have a slightly different take on that.
Yeah.
Not a slightly different take. I actually think it was about the dad, because audio leaves a more, the visual, for me, the visualization was what bookend, what was bookending something that he said several times. Envision yourself just like at the US Open, And so we see this contrast that bookends it. But I think that the story was more about visions. So I'm just thinking, wait, it's about Serena, but it's about this vision, and you just keep on hearing. I don't know, a lot of feels in that one. That's excellent. Sure. I mean, the other thing that struck me about this is that every single time you see, because I was remembering the Nike campaigns from the 90s, and I was thinking like they're never going to do better than this. And then that one, I've never seen that ad, and I'm just like, with so many feels, and I'm just like, I'm sure it's a different ad agency. But it's, I think, getting to your point about building the story is that it doesn't matter who's providing the technical capacity to tell the story and who's doing it, but there is this theme, this story that becomes the Nike part, and therefore now you can drop in all kinds of different ways of presenting that. And then you still stay true to the story.
Absolutely. You're preaching, man. That's it. You're right. Yeah. So you got this young girl.
I can't do it, by the way. I mean,
no. I totally
I'm like the shittiest storyteller.
Hey, no, we're all going to be better at the end of this. We'll all be better at the end of this. Right. So you got this young girl, right, from Compton. We all know she's from Compton, right? She's got this demanding father, the coach. To your point, that's the supporting character. She's the main character, but she's got this support system behind it, right? And she's playing a sport where she's clearly, she is a minority in this sport, right? So what's the obstacle? What's preventing her from achieving, the outcome? She wants to be the greatest tennis player in the world. What's holding her up? What are some things that she might be feeling that are preventing her, right? And there was a key line that Nike dropped in there, that shines a light on that. I don't know if anyone caught it, but what are some of the obstacles that might be preventing her, the challenges that might be preventing her from getting to where she wants to go? Feel free to
like owning it, like charging the the net. Maybe that's a technical answer.
That's more, probably more functional, like when you're playing the game, right? That's good though. Yeah, good thought. More of the emotional obstacles, think about it from that perspective, right? It's okay if it's a challenge. I'm intentionally applying some pressure.
I'll take the obvious, being black female, being at that situation where there's very few that had this
a lack of representation,
and being basically a pioneer for the newer generation of tennis players.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's Compton. I mean, humble beginnings. Someone said in the chat, humble beginnings.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So there's moments in there where she's coming, she's overcoming this self-doubt, like you were saying, if she's the first and only, right, as of that moment, there's moments where she's like, man, maybe I should just quit, right? And she's got a lot of naysayers, right? There's naysayers, it's only, like you said, it's only crazy until you do it, right? How many people are probably telling her, you'll never get to the US Open. There's no way. You're from Compton. You're the only one. This is never going to happen. Right. So she's overcoming. There was moments in there that they're showing the self-doubt. You can see it in her eyes, the moments of exhaustion, where it'd be easier for her to just put down the rack and walk away. Right. But she kept at it. Right. She stuck with it. Right. Ultimately, to become a 6-time US Open champion, screw all you naysayers. Right. The greatest female tennis player of all time. And JD, to your point, she kicked open the whole, the door for a new generation of athletes. Right. She serves as this beacon of hope, right, for a completely new generation, a new face of the game, right? And that's awesome. That's the power of, what she was able to do, right? But then really Nike using their platform to tell that story and keep telling that story, right?
And Eric, your hand's up. What thoughts do you have, Eric?
So it was on the point of obstacle because it wasn't in the commercial. But her older sister.
Big sister, yeah.
Because her older sister was pretty damn good too.
Yeah.
And beat her in a few of those Grand Slam finals and other tournament championships when they went up against each other. So she had to beat the older sister.
Yeah.
Also, in addition to all the other players, she had a family challenge.
Yeah.
Because her older sister was great.
Yeah. Eric, yes, that's a great point. I think, there was probably moments of self-doubt, like how am I ever going to take on Big Sister, and beat Big Sister. But yeah, I think Nike, as they do with their ads, and did a beautiful job of telling that story and bringing Serena stories to market and really doing it in a way that was just short, concise, and made you feel, right? I think a great story, whatever it makes you feel, a great story makes you feel something, Obama did it, with this feeling of hope and how he delivered and presented. Trump did it with, his, more on the opposite end of like anger and, and it's two different methods, but it worked, right, for what they were setting out to do, right? So you're probably, I don't have a budget to produce a video like that, and I get it, you're all not Nike, you don't have the budgets of Nike, and you're probably not working with ad agencies and creative agencies. But that's really what the beauty of storytelling is. And, someone on the call mentioned, earlier, is it CP Smith? Yeah, I think you were alluding to this, but, just the format in which stories can be told. That's the beauty of storytelling. A great story doesn't have to be some high dollar, expensive production. A great story can be shared and expressed in an endless number of ways. Really, the only limit is your creativity, right? I think I intentionally put this picture in here of the fire, the bonfire here. It's said that the stories were invented around the fire. And I don't know how we can prove that, but it makes sense, right? And when you think about how a great story can be experienced, those different number of ways, the ways, right, are the tactics and channels, right? So Nike is telling that story in a video format. The video format itself is the tactic and channel. But there's lots of ways stories can be expressed, right? Expressed around the campfire, referrals and word of mouth. I intentionally put that first, right? If you can equip people with the story to tell on your behalf, to refer, to share with people in their circles, right? That is powerful. People are the most powerful medium, right? I'm in the business of producing media and creative assets and stuff. But at the end of the day, we always tell our clients, people are the most powerful medium. A word of mouth, a referral from a friend, a family member, a neighbor, a community neighbor is going to be way more powerful than any piece of media you consume, right? Which takes you to influencers, right? People that, you look to, maybe you don't have a trusted relationship with them or anything, but it's someone you follow. It's someone that you look to for information, right? Equipping them with your stories and using them as a channel and a tactic to distribute that. Pictures, right? We've all seen a picture, right? You've all heard the saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? A picture, a well-captured picture can tell a story in and of itself, you know, press releases, your website, blog posts, you know, the list goes on and on and on. I think where we as a creative agency really start to push our clients, you know, with the stories that they're trying to tell and the stories that we help them tell, is to really get creative. Where does the story contextually meet the audience that you're trying to reach, the community that you're trying to inspire and or activate or pull into your, you know, into your mission, right? So, you know, finding ways to embed the work that you do into a farmer's market, you know, if that's where the community is. You saw the evocative abortion pills vending machine that was in our sizzle reel. We weren't literally giving out abortion pills, right? That was an awareness campaign. I could send out the link that you guys can learn more about the work we did there. But those were $250 used vending machines that we picked up off of Facebook Marketplace, wrapped, and then dropped on street corners, just to, you know, to be these unexpected moments where people, it's totally disrupting their day, that they have no choice but to stop and engage and say, what the heck is this all about, right? You know, community meetings, canvases, we've done sky banners. So just really getting intentional and creative with the way you distribute your media, right? And that's really the tactics and channels. And one thing we see, you know, and we always tell clients, right, this is about developing your local outreach strategy. Tactics and channels are not the strategy, right? The strategy, those are the mediums, right? Those are how you bring your strategy to market into life. And, you know, social media, I've seen clients say, oh, we're going to do social media. That's our strategy. That's our outreach strategy, is social media. It's like, no, that's not your strategy. Your story is your strategy. What's the narrative, what's the message that we're trying to deliver and create and bring to the market? That's really where the heart of the strategy lies. Once you hone your strategy and figure out what's the story we're trying to tell and story that we're trying to convey, then you figure out all the tactics and channels on how to distribute it, how you're going to bring that to the market, right? So does that make sense? You got to start with your story. All right. I saw some head nods. All right. So let's go to, I want to pull back to this framework. So I gave you a real life example from a brand you all are familiar with. We want to use this same construct. I want you to just think about, you know, your own organization, your own mission, and we're going to go through the framework. So let me get started here. All right. So think about your character, right? What I want you to do is think about, write down, you know, sort of a real person, you know, in the community you serve that has benefited from the work that you do, right? Not the community as a whole, right? Like your work is impacting this, and, you know, you have these really ambitious, you know, missions and visions and goals, and the collective impact I know is going to be powerful, but try to really hone in on one person and try to picture them in your mind. If anyone's ever done a persona exercise, this is very much like that. I want to give you just a couple minutes to think about that. Think about, you know, who are they? What do they do? What's the circumstances surrounding them? You know, they marginalized communities, do they not have access to clean water, like whatever it is, right? You know, sort of describe this person and the world that they're coming from. All right, let me keep going. So the goal here, when you start to think about, well, who's the story? You know, what's the story that we want to highlight? Who do we want to build a story around, right? You're thinking about this character, right? And you're trying to find someone, you know, in the work that you do that has benefited from your mission. And what you want to do is, when you start to create this narrative around this character, right? The goal is when you bring this story to the market, you want the target audience that you're trying to reach. You know, if you're trying to go wider in your community, you want your target audience to see that character and say, hey, they're like me, right? I see myself in them, right? They need to be able to relate. I mean, remember I said relatable characters overcoming an obstacle to achieve a great outcome, right? They need to be able to relate to the character that they're seeing in the story that's, you know, that you're about to unfold, right? This is, you know, when we think about representation, this is why very much why representation matters in media and all the work that we do. We need to make sure that everybody is able to see themselves in the work that's happening. Does that make sense? So you sort of got a character construct, right? So when you're thinking about your character, you want a real person that has benefited from your mission, right? The obstacle. So what challenges is this person experiencing that your program helped them overcome, right? A lot of this ties right back to your value proposition. It's why you're setting out to do the work that you do, right? Again, rather than taking it from the big collective, you know, you're trying to drill it down to what is the challenge this one person is facing that you help them overcome. The goal at this stage, right, is we want the target audience to really start to empathize with the character's struggles, right? I feel that, right? I felt that, you know, in this arena, you know, we've all been, I don't play tennis, but there's been moments, you know, where I've doubted myself, where I've had naysayers, you know, call me crazy and think my dreams are too big, and, you know, and moments of exhaustion, right? Do you let those naysayers and the self-doubt, you know, that we all experience as humans sort of hold you back, right? So what you're trying to look for is, you know, what are some of those emotional and some of those functional challenges, you know, the obstacles that are standing in their way that ultimately the target audience and the community you're trying to reach can start to resonate with. Is that making sense? See some good head nods. All right. All right, then lastly, the outcome, right? This is what we're all aiming for, outcomes. This is what the judges want to see, right? When you pitch, right? You know, what's the new reality you help them achieve, you know, for themselves, for their family, for their community as a whole, right? That's the destination, right? You know, they're the hero of the story. You're just the means for them getting there. You're just the tool to help them get there, right? And that new reality is what the picture you want to paint. The goal here is you want the target audience you're trying to reach in your community to desire the same result your character got, right? Right? I want that, right? That makes sense? So you want them to see themselves, empathize, and desire. See, empathize, desire. So it's a simple framework, but, and like I said, the more people see themselves represented in your story, the more their story, the more it becomes a story that they want to be part of. And when it's, you know, when we're going out to the community and you're trying to engage the community, you want the community to be a part of this. That's what community outreach is all about, pulling people into your mission and making sure that they actually have a clear understanding of why they should be part of it, right? Why they should be supportive of it. Maybe they're not directly benefiting from it, right? But why they should at least be supportive of it. And if they understand it, you know, they could refer it on your behalf. Right. So make sense? All right. So I'm going to click forward just to 5 key takeaways and suggestions, and then I definitely want to open it up for more conversation. Let's dig through these. So my suggestion would be that you all make storytelling the foundation of your local outreach strategy and engagement efforts. Stories that are less about you and more about the lives that you're impacting, right? Really pinpoint those individual lives, right? And find creative ways to just showcase the impact you're having on them. Make the sourcing and development of these stories a top priority. You got to make it a habit, right? I'd say don't be afraid to ask. More often than not, people are willing to open up and be their vulnerable selves, right? Some of the work that you do, it is, you know, you're speaking to vulnerable communities, but they've benefited from the work you do. And you just ask them to share their entire lived experience, you know, and show them the value of them being part of the story. More often than not, yeah, you'll see people open up because they realize and they sort of want to be a champion for the cause. So yeah, like I said, this is a habit, right? You don't have to over-engineer or overthink. intake forms like Google Forms, Google Docs, just asking people like, hey, if you're interested in sharing your story with us, the point is just ask for it, right? And then start to collect them, right? The more hand raisers you get, start with your first story, but then start to just keep a reserve, a catalog full of all these stories that you can tap into at different points in your outreach efforts. Be consistent with the feeling you aim to evoke, whether it's inspiration, hope, joy, comfort, right? Anger, if that's the path that you think is the right play for you. It's about, you don't want to take people on an emotional roller coaster, right? You want to create some consistency with your outreach efforts, right? And for your own sanity, right? Over time, just like when you think about a brand, right, and sort of the essence and feelings that brands create when it comes to things that we sort of consume in our day-to-day lives, we have this impression of how they carry themselves. Or same with leaders, right? There's sort of a feeling that is evoked, that's consistent. So I'd say, definitely be consistent, intentional with that, right? Tell stories in the right place. So you've got once you have your story defined, right, make sure you're bringing it, contextually to the right place. Meet your community where they are. There's definitely, sort of the table stakes. You got your website and you do your email newsletter and you do all sort of what I call the block and tackle sort of tactics. But often what ends up happening there is you start to speak to yourself, right? You start to speak sort of to the echo chamber, and everybody that's already like believes what we believe, you don't leave that, right? It's everyone patting each other on the back, and we all get it, but that's not the community that we're trying to reach. So how do you break out of that, and get your story into the community, right? And that's, that takes intent, that takes creativity, right? And that takes thoughtfulness, right? But it's not impossible. The possibilities are endless, like I say. And then 5, incorporate a story or 2 into your pitch to the judges. I think this is going to make your data, any data that you share, more relatable, which is key, and more memorable, right? Stories are what connect us as humans, not the data. And at the end of the day, those judges are humans with emotions, just like all of us.